Well, within I think probably all of the federations, and I can speak specifically to USA Powerlifting, which is where I hold a role as a meet director. You know, one of the things that I'm trying to do is drive some change in terms of how meets are handled from your first meet all the way through I'm going to Worlds. Okay, so there needs to be a very natural progression. Well, part of the problem that USA Powerlifting is having, and they're not the only ones, I mean, all of the federations are having the same problem. It's a great problem to have. We have exponential growth. I mean, last year, USA Powerlifting had over 15,000 powerlifters join their federation. So the way their federation works is that you sign up your membership only for a year, and most people only sign up if they're competing in a meet. Now, I don't have that I can pull out of the top of my hat the exact number of lifters that competed in all the meets last year, but I know that that 15,000 number is probably not too far off. Okay, so, and that's one federation. So when you're looking at that kind of exponential growth, you're going to have growing pains. And right now, USA Powerlifting has experienced some growing pains, as well as all of the other federations. So they're trying really hard to catch up. So I think one of the things that I think is interesting, and I was just sharing with somebody the other day, if you look at the way powerlifting is laid out, even if I just pick one federation, it can almost be put on a perfect bell curve. You know, you've got your people at this far end that are your outliers. These are the people going to Worlds, okay? If you've got on the other end, you've got people who have some sort of injury and maybe they only bench, or they're old powerlifters, or they're very new and they may not ever compete. They just like powerlifting in the gym. So you've got, and in the middle, you've got this huge broad range of lifters, which, as I stated before, has grown exponentially. And as federations, if you're looking at it as a business model, these are our customers. We have to figure out how we're going to service them. In addition to that, from a powerlifting perspective, we have to look at these people as these people are the future of powerlifting. So we need to train them. Okay, we need to show them how meets need to be run. We need to show them how a quality federation is run. So from A to Z, we need to be mentoring them in terms of how they're going to progress through this cycle. It would be very rare that somebody's going to come into this spectrum and instantly go to Worlds. Okay, that's your extreme outlier. So in the middle, we've got to figure out how we're going to develop these lifters and how we're going to make sure that they are going to be responsible for the future of powerlifting. We need to make sure that we're putting that in good hands. So one of the things that I'm trying to do as a meet director is start trying to shape how we're going to take care of these customers and how we're going to build it out for the future. So I don't like calling meets local meets. I like calling them preliminary meets, but they're talking about the smaller meets. We host them here in our gym, and I consider them training meets. So I am going to bring you in here at the gym in a meet that I'm going to cap at 50, and I mean cap at 50, that's a hard cap. I cut it off at 50. I am not letting one more person in. I do not play politics. I do not say, okay, well, this is so-and-so's friend, or this guy lifts in our gym. He missed the deadline. Well, I'm sorry, he missed the deadline. He missed the deadline. The deadline was out there for months. I'm sorry. It's not fair to the other lifters that are come expecting a 50 lifter meet if I suddenly grow it to 75. That means they're going to be here all day and half the night. So we absolutely hard line on closing out meets. But here at the gym, what we try to do is say, okay, this is going to be your training meet. So when you come here, you're cutting no slack. When you go to weigh-ins, you're weighing in and your lot number order. Okay, when you are on the platform, you are communicating with the lifting table, with the scoring table, with lifter cards that you are filling out and signing, just like you would have to do at a national meet. A lot of the smaller meets, they circumvent that. They don't do that, okay? We make sure that even though it's a smaller platform, it's a smaller meet, all of the logistics and everything that a lifter experiences is going to be the same thing that they're going to experience when they go to state, when they go to regionals, when they go to nationals. So they're not shocked when somebody at the lifter table says, here's your lifter card, and they don't know what it is. So we try to make sure that we're using those preliminary meets, as I like to call them, as training meets and getting them ready for the next level. So then at your state level, the same kind of thing, a little bit bigger stage, a lot more lifters, but we're trying to change the state meet moving forward, that in order to participate in the state meet, you have to have participated in the preliminary meet. So this starts your progression, okay? That way I don't have a 200 lifter meet with 50 lifters who have never stepped on a platform. So it helps backstage, it helps with staging, it helps with warm-up, it helps with the execution of the platform. If I've got a 200 lifter meet where I've got lifters on there that have been at a preliminary meet, that know what to expect, so they're not shocked. And then as the progression goes, so does the lifter. So what we're trying to do is develop this methodology where we can bring people along through the federation. The meet directors are responsible for getting a sanction approved from the federation and then doing everything that's required to successfully execute the meet, which means securing a venue, promoting the meet to the lifters, making sure that we have all of our legal documents in place for the venue, making sure we have all the legal documents in place for insurance purposes, getting the forms out there and filled out, getting the Facebook, everything that's required for marketing, so that we can promote and get the lifters actually to participate in the meets. As a meet director, our role is to really support the organization and make sure that we have very high quality, consistent quality meets that we're producing for the federation. What is really not in the meet director's realm is anything that's related to rules or regulations. People will send me as the meet director questions about equipment that's required on the platform. Even though a lot of times I probably can answer those questions, I don't. I float those up the food chain to our state chair to make sure that I'm getting an official answer. I don't function in that capacity as a meet director, so I try not to answer any type of official question with regards to rules or regulations or equipment. So even though as a lifter I probably could, I do not make that assumption and never would. The other thing I would say as a meet director that's really important to note coming in, especially for people who are interested in getting involved in meet directing, is that it's not something that you need to get involved in if you're looking to simply make a profit. The mistake I think a lot of meet directors have made in the past is trying to think that they're going to put on meets and make all kinds of money. And that is just not the case. And in a lot of respects, people who come into meet directing from that perspective end up hurting the sport, in my opinion, more than helping, because they instantly lose focus. Their focus is no longer on doing what's best for the lifter, doing what's best for the spotters and loaders and your referees and all the people volunteering to put on a successful meet. What ends up happening is that their focus shifts to how can I cut corners to make more profit in this meet. It's one of the things that we've tried to do is never lose sight of our mission or our purpose in putting on meets. And our purpose in putting on meets has always been to try to bolster the sport, to try to do what's best for powerlifting, what's best for not just the USA Powerlifting Federation, but all of the federations. So we're really trying to make sure that we're setting a higher standard here in the state of Ohio for what we're putting on for meets and what lifters can expect for us out of meets. The one thing I don't want to lose sight of, when you talk about putting on meets, yes, it's about the lifters, it's for the lifters, but you absolutely cannot lose sight of the people who volunteer their time away from their families, away from their own training, to come and help spot and load or referee meets. These people give so much, and a lot of times I don't think they really get the appreciation that they deserve. We cannot put on successful meets without the volunteers, without the people who are passionate about the sport and care about the sport and are willing to give of themselves to make sure that the sport is moving in the right direction. I first got the idea that Ohio, as a state, could do a whole lot better in terms of what we were providing for lifters, what we were providing for volunteers, in terms of running meets, in that we were at a very large state meet and we're really pretty devastated by the lack of attention to detail that was given to the warm-up areas, even to the platforms. I know as far as my lift goes, it was the first time I really kind of tweaked my knee because we had carpet that was moving. We had teams in the back that we almost had a pretty bad catastrophe in that the warm-up racks were not adequate for what we needed to do. Then we went on from there to some smaller meets. That was a large meet. We went on and went to visit some smaller meets, participate in some smaller meets, and what we were finding is that people were running powerlifting meets in CrossFit gyms, which is, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We actually do it here in our CrossFit gym, but this is the difference. The problem with what they were doing in the CrossFit gyms is that they weren't providing adequate warm-up for your heavier lifters. So some of your heavier lifters, it's not okay to think that they can warm up their squat with bumpers. It's not okay to think that they can warm up with Oli bars and not appropriate bars. So after going through those few experiences, we quickly came to the realization that, you know what, somebody needs to step up. Somebody needs to make sure that as a state we're representing our lifters, we're representing our federations, all federations, in a safe and better manner than what they had been represented in the past. You know, we just really felt like we could move forward and do a better job than what had been done before. So that's kind of where we started. All right, so one of the first meets that we took on was our state meet. And one of the goals that I had in mind when I decided to take on the state meet was that I had recently been to nationals, and we're fortunate here in Columbus that we get to experience the Arnold. So I was able to see what type of venue the higher level meets were utilizing. One of the things I think that was important to me was that I wanted our lifters in the state of Ohio to be able to lift at a state meet and know what it feels like to lift on that big stage, so that when they step up to the next big stage, whether it be regionals or nationals or lifting at the Arnold, they're prepared for what that big stage feels like. They're prepared for that, for the lights, they're prepared for the cameras, they're prepared for what that's going to feel like. So the first thing we had to do was find an appropriate venue. We're fortunate here in Columbus that we have the Greater Columbus Convention Center, and we were able to secure a location there. One of the things you fight in trying to find a venue for a meet, especially if it's a spring, summer, or even fall meet, is that you're trying to find venues and you're competing with your local wedding market. You're going to want the venue probably for at least a Saturday, and if not a Saturday and a Sunday, you'll need to set up on Friday. So you've just got to be prepared for the fact that if you're looking at a spring, summer, or fall meet, you're going to be going up against the wedding market, which means you cannot wait until 2 months before the meet to try to secure a venue. Just to give you some idea, we were securing our venues 8-9 months out. So that means for me that I had to get my sanction almost a year out just to make sure I had plenty of time to secure what I felt like for the level of meat we were producing was an appropriate venue. The lifters are paying different prices for meets depending on the level of meet it is. So if you're coming to a state, a regional, or a national meet, you're paying more to compete in that meet. You should expect from your meet director top quality meet. You should expect an amazing venue, you should expect an amazing stage. And as meet directors, if you keep your focus on what's important, which is developing that lifter, which is helping those lifters develop that sense of platform, that sense of what it feels like to lift on the big platforms, on the big stages, if you keep that goal in mind rather than focusing on the dollar, then it becomes a very natural progression just to make sure that you're providing them with a top quality venue and a top quality experience. So the way we normally go about promoting our meets is to start first with Facebook. We'll start with Facebook and set up a Facebook event, and tied to that event is the registration form. So we try to make sure that everything can be done in that one location and online. So we try to make it as easy as possible for people to sign up for meets and to find the meets that they're looking for in order to sign up for them. I try to make sure that I'm communicating with my lifters, present and past lifters, on 3 different forums. So we will use Facebook, we'll set up the event, we'll do most of our initial pushes through Facebook, and we try to keep the Facebook event page always updated with current information. About the venue, about hotels, about, you know, we'll post pictures of the trophies when they come in, the t-shirts when they come in. So we try to keep people excited and updated about the meet and what's going on. I just don't feel like Facebook's enough because there are a lot of people who are not on Facebook. So in addition to Facebook, the other thing that we do is we use a system that school teachers use. It's called Remind. So when people register for the meet, they get an email that gives them a link to sign up for Remind, which is basically a group messaging system that school teachers use to put announcements out to their classes. So what we'll do is as soon as we post something new on Facebook, I'll send a Remind message out to everybody who's joined the Remind group and let them know that, hey, there's new information out there. In addition to that, we also email everybody as part of their registration. They'll put their email address down. So we also email everybody a duplicate of whatever is up on the event page. In addition to that, there are, our federation and most federations will have a state page for that particular federation. We also try to make sure that anything we post on the event also gets posted to the state page, so it helps us market it. I think all of the federations now are doing a pretty good job maintaining calendars and that help lifters find events that fit into their training schedule, that fit into their location. So what we try to make sure we do is that when they click a link on the federation site to find that specific event, we try to make sure that we have all the information out there and available to them. With the registration process, what we usually do is on the Facebook page and in emails we send out, we'll put a link to a jot form. And jot form is actually a really excellent product for managing event registrations. The nice thing from a meet director perspective is that I can have people go out to JotForm, register for the meet, gather all of their information. JotForm will let me export that down to an Excel spreadsheet, super simple, but also it will not let them complete their registration until they click the PayPal link and go in and pay their registration. So it eliminates a lot of the old school kind of problems with, oh, well, this person told me they wanted to lift in the meet and they filled out their form, but they were going to pay me next week. So it eliminates us holding spots for people who have not legitimately registered. And then from a registration perspective for the lifter, it allows them to go in and literally by drop down and picking choices in boxes, lets them fill out their entire meet registration. We also have a lot of our registration type waivers on there that they can sign off on. Then it also has a digital signature that they can sign that they've registered for the meet. So once somebody has registered for the meet, it gathers all their information, it stores it in JotForm, it keeps it out there so I can go in and access it anytime I want. So it'll also let me create whatever kind of reports I want to create, whatever kind of queries I want to create to actually export that data and pull it down. For the larger meets, one of the things we try to do is publish the roster fairly often. Lifters like to know who they're competing against, so they like to know who else has signed up for the meet. So we try to make sure that we're publishing that information as frequently as possible and making sure that we're keeping everybody aware of what's going on. One of the things that the Federation has done, and not just this Federation, I think a lot of the federations are doing this, is we're taking a really hard line on refunds. So if somebody reserves a spot in our meet and something happens, they have a family function or they get ill or they get an injury and something happens and they cannot lift, we absolutely have taken a hard line on no refunds, because what has happened is that they have taken up a spot in the meet. So in addition to that, we also do not at all run wait list. So when we close a meet, that meet is closed, and if something happens and you can't lift, all the federations now are taking a really hard line on no refunds. It just makes us able to manage the meets a whole lot better and a whole lot more efficiently. One of my beliefs is that you should never, ever, ever chase small money. Chasing small money tends to change your focus. We are in the gym business, and we also run meets. That's not our main source of income. If I'm running a meet, my main source of income from that meet is not t-shirts. Okay, so if I changed my focus and said, okay, I'm going to make the most money I can on t-shirts, I've changed my business model. I've all of a sudden made t-shirts a primary money driver for the meet. Well, that's not going to happen. Okay, and to me, that's chasing small money. The difference in me hiring someone to do quality graphics, The difference in me buying a little bit better t-shirt that's not those real scratchy, stiff t-shirts that make everybody sweat is about $3 a shirt. So that's about $3 a lifter. And the spotters and loaders who also wear our t-shirts to support our sponsors and to support our event while they're spotting and loading are greatly appreciative, because we get t-shirts that are quality t-shirts that wick it so that when they're up there working hard, spotting and loading, sweating, they're a lot more comfortable. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort to get a quality graphic. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort to just upgrade that t-shirt just a little bit. And let me tell you what, just those little extra things that you do really make a difference in the experience for the lifter, and not just for the lifters, but for the people who are supporting them, for their families who are coming, who are wearing the t-shirts. One of the things that happens, and this is one of the reasons why we have that hard 30-day cutoff deadline, is that at that 30-day mark, that is our drop dead date to order medals, to order t-shirts, to make decisions about the venue and how many platforms we're going to run. So by 30 days out, I have to decide if I'm going to run 2 platforms and 3 warm-up areas, or if I'm going to run 3 platforms and 4 warm-up areas. If I'm going to do that, I've got to make sure that I have all of my logistics in place to make that happen. In addition to that, the medal counts, coming up with the medal counts and how many medals we need is kind of a laborious process. There's no magic button for doing that. We literally have to go through and count how many medals we're expecting to award in each of the weight classes in each of the divisions. So all of that has to be done 30 days out, or we cannot get them in time. So that's one of the main reasons why we have to have that 30-day deadline. And if I keep it spanning the meet, what happens is that I haven't ordered enough stuff. I haven't ordered enough medals. I haven't ordered enough t-shirts. I haven't allowed for enough room on the platforms. And even, you know, one thing to keep in mind is that logistically you think of a platform as the hardware. You know, you also have to think of the platform as people, because I've got to have, if I've got to run an extra platform, that means I have to have an entire another set of referees. It means I also have to have a whole nother set of spotters and loaders. So there's a lot that goes into adding a platform, and all of those types of decisions that have to be made 30 days out. So one of the things that we discovered in the first meet that we did, we took any money that we could possibly gather from the execution of that meet and put it into purchasing equipment. And what we did was we purchased racks, we purchased kilo plates, we purchased bars, we purchased everything that we needed in order to execute a top quality meet. One of the things that we kept in mind, and I think it's really important when you start running meets, to never think small. When you're making decisions about what equipment to purchase, you have to think in terms of, if I run a national meet, will I have enough of the appropriate gear to run a national level meet? So that's one of the things that we did coming into this, was we said, okay, well, we could get lesser equipment, but why get it now and end up replacing it if our goal is to eventually someday run a national meet? So we tried to make sure that we had top quality equipment that we would be able to do that. In addition to that, it was really important to us to keep it in really good shape. So what I wanted to make sure of is that anybody who stepped on a platform was lifting with the best equipment, the best weights, the best platform that we could pull together. So in order to do that, what we decided we needed to make sure that we did was keep all of that equipment separated. We don't use it here in the gym. It actually stays in a storage unit. And what we did was we purchased extremely large shipping crates, and in each crate exists one platform. So in each of the shipping crates, we have the rack, the weights, the bars, the lights. Everything we need to set up a platform is in one crate. So it makes it very easy for us when we have to go down the convention center and unload. We actually use a loader to load the truck. We get to the convention center, we use a dolly. We put them in and we drop the crates right in front of where the platform is, and we're able to unload them and get them set up very, very quickly. It also helps us when it's time to tear down, because when we go to tear down, we bring the crates in, drop them, and then load them so they're ready to go the next time. And they actually stay in storage until we pull them out to use them for a meet. So it's equipment that is only used during the meet, and we try to keep it absolutely pristine. So when a lifter steps on the platform, they can be assured that they're going to be working with top quality equipment. In addition to that, and I think this is really important, especially at state level and above meets, we don't do this when we have meets here in the gym, but for state level and above meets that we're doing at the convention center or at some other venue, we make sure that the warm-up platforms have the exact same equipment that is on their platform. So if we have ER racks on the platforms, we have ER racks in warm-up. Whatever bars we have on this platform, we have in warm-up. Plates, we have in warm-up. Everything in warm-up is exactly like what they're going to hit when they step on the platform. The bar is the same, so they're not going to get out there to pull a deadlift and all of a sudden end up with that they had a way whippy bar that they were warming up with, and now they're trying to pull with a stiffer bar and having a little bit of an issue. So we try to make sure that we keep everything consistent. Okay, so meet day is full of hype. Okay, meet day is so exciting. It's funny because all of us that go to volunteer, I think we're more nervous and excited than the lifters. We want everybody to have a really great experience, so we try to make sure that we have our act together, where we have a really tight process in terms of taking people through registration. The other thing is that we have to remember, and we try to keep in mind, that the lifters are very nervous, and so when they're nervous, they're not always functioning on full brain power. A lot of times they're depleted if they're cutting weight, so they're certainly not functioning all brain power. So we try to make sure that we're being very helpful in telling them where they need to go and what they need to do. So meet day, they'll come and get their packet and then they go line up for weigh-in. We have refs standing there for weigh-in. We keep 2 scales. We actually keep 3 scales, that's a lie. We keep 3. We keep 2 that we take with us that we make sure that we get calibrated before every meet, so that the scales are absolutely perfect. We have 1 for the men and 1 for the women, and they line up with the refs. They make sure that they understand that they are weighing in lot number order, and they'll go ahead and get their weigh-ins. After they get their weigh-in done, they'll go and do rack heights for their bench and for their squat. That information goes right there on their lifter card, which then ends up at the lifting table, so we can make sure that we're getting all that information. The chaos is all happening over at the scoring table because they're taking all the information from weigh-in and from the rack heights and making sure that they get that into the scoring program very quickly, very timely, so that we can make sure that the meet absolutely runs on schedule. You know, one of the things that we try to pride ourselves in is if we say lifting is starting at 9 o'clock, at 9 o'clock a ref is calling that the bar is loaded, so we are ready to go. Then as the meet goes on through the day, it's a little bit nice for me because this is when we get to sit back and take a breath, and we let the professionals, if you will, the referees and the spotters and loaders take over. The referees are amazing people. It's a little bit touching to me that they sacrifice so much of the time with their family, so much expense to travel and come to these meets to ref. It's interesting sometimes when you have a lifter who's maybe a little bit agitated with a ref, or he got a bad call or whatever, and you know, in my brain I know these refs, and the one thing I always tell them is that ref is pulling for you. That ref wants you to pass your lift. They are not trying to look for reasons to exclude you. They're trying to look for reasons to make sure that you get all white lights on your lifts. In addition to that, in addition to the refs, we have spotters and loaders that are, I consider them professional spotters and loaders. We have guys that come down from Cleveland for the weekend for every meet we do. We have a guy, Eric Curry, that comes in that people will tell you he has the best hands in powerlifting. He gives the best bench handoffs. He actually works out his wrist and his arms to make sure that he can give those really good handoffs. He's the first person they call for nationals. He's the first person that they call for worlds, and he always comes in for all of our meets, and so does Mike. He works with Eric up in Cleveland, and they are absolutely amazing.
Mike McCarr from Cleveland, Ohio.
Eric Curry from Twinsburg, Ohio.
So yeah, as a lifter, we know what it's like to get a bad spot or a bad handoff, so that really can make or break your lifts. It's real important to communicate with the lifters and talk to them about how they want their handoffs and where they want it. You really want to set them up to do the best they can.
A successful meet for us is nobody hit the floor on squats. That's how we will operate.
Of all the emails that I get back from the lifters telling me what a great experience they had at the meet, the most emails I get are about how amazing Eric and Mike are, and they truly are. And they give so much. Like I said, they come in for Cleveland for every meet we do down here. So we appreciate them so much. Okay, so one of the things we do that the lifters I think really enjoy is that we hire a photographer to come to every single one of our events, and he tries to get a picture of every single lift. Now, I'm going to tell you, he's the hardest working person on the platform, and he doesn't get them all, but he is pretty close. So for example, here is the Ohio State meet, just the PM section. He pulled 673 photos. On Sunday AM session, he pulled 701. That's just in one day. But the pictures that he pulls and the quality that he's able to get, they are absolutely amazing. And a lot of it has to do with the venue is amazing, the lighting is amazing, and it just lends itself to just beautiful photographs. And what we do is we post these out on our Facebook page, and they are absolutely free to the lifters. The lifters are able to go out and download these pictures. Their family is able to go out and download these pictures, and then they can save them, post them, do as they like with them. One of the things that we love to see is so many of the lifters will take these pictures and turn them into their profile pictures. It always makes me smile when they do that. So what an exciting day. So today we are running USA Powerlifting Midwest Regional Meet, which is the next level up from the state meet. Next level past that would be a national level meet. And one of the things that we're hoping to do for Columbus is bring in some national level powerlifting meets. We have the most perfect facility here at the Greater Columbus Convention Center to do just such a meet. We have a really large ballroom. Short North Ballroom is fine for what we're doing today, but we can certainly expand that to the additional ballroom and have plenty of room to run a national level meet here with over 1,000 lifters. In addition to that, there are all sorts of additional rooms that would be available to us, and what we hope to do is come in and set up a gym so that people and their families who are coming in for the national meets have a place to work out without leaving the facility. We have enough room here that we could also have a separate room where people could go in and actually check their weight on one of the official scales. So as we have been doing these meets over the last 2 years, one of the things that we're doing is learning and growing and hopefully getting us to the point where here in Columbus we can really bring in some of the greatest powerlifting meets that this country has seen.